Hi, I'm Milo Denison.
Oh,
Hello?
do you want
Is there a cat there somewhere?
Oh, I said meow.
to?
Yeah, I did.
Nice. I thought there was a cat for a moment.
I did
I
too.
thought the meow sound would actually work well with your intro music, and you could just kind of blend, sort of mix it over that somewhere.
We'll chop it into the edit and the opening titles.
The opening music. Yeah, that works. Hi, I'm Milo Denison.
And I'm Kev Bamboo, and this is Rip It Up.
Rip It Up is a topical show about life impacting creators around the world today.
Yeah, and tonight is a special deep dive edition of the show where we're delighted to welcome back special effects professional Rod Matsui. We'll be discussing the further origins of folklore, conspiracies, cult film, and more.
Hello.
But before we get started talking to Rod, Milo, you recently discovered that the UK is home to the sporting events of Shrovetide football, World Bog Snorkeling Championships, and cheese rolling. Is that right?
Yeah. So the football thing's kind of weird. Like it happens in this one little town in kind of the middle of nowhere. And basically they have just this massive crowd of people. And they're broken up into two teams. Basically they throw a ball in the middle of this massive crowd. And the idea is to get the ball to one goal on the one side of the town or a goal on the other side of town. And literally it's just massive groups of people trying to like grab this ball and wrestle to get it to one side of the town. And they have like weird rules too. Like one of the rules is no killing somebody. All the local businesses kind of like close their windows and board up their windows and stuff, so people can't like break through the windows in the process of, because you should look up, like you can look this up on YouTube. It's crazy looking.
I was actually advised. I had to do some research on this, so I can walk into the discussion knowing a little bit about it and having looked at some of it over the years, and it looks a little bit crazy.
Yeah, I would have no interest in being anywhere near that crowd.
It looks like a really good hurt.
Yeah. Well,
it looks like a real way to get smashed under a crowd of people.
Yeah, exactly. I would imagine people get hurt all the time in that.
I would think so.
Yeah, that's weird. It's funny, the cheese rolling thing. You watch the cheese rolling videos. It's the same thing. These guys are running down this hill super fast and being dragged off. Yeah. I actually have an uncle, and he used to do a rodeo. He has a big piece of property outside of Spokane, and he would do a rodeo actually regularly. And they did a whiskey run, and it was basically the same thing. So everybody gets to the top of the hill, and you run to the bottom of the hill as fast as you can, and whoever gets to the bottom of the hill gets a bottle of whiskey. And it was literally the same thing. Although I don't think, as many people got hurt doing that. He doesn't do it anymore. He doesn't do the rodeo anymore. I think he's kind of aged out of it, but
I don't know what to say to that.
I never did it. My sister did it once, actually. She got up there and did the run down the hill thing.
Did she get a free? I
don't remember if she won or not. I wasn't there that year. So, but I do remember her telling me she did it, but I don't remember if she won or not.
The cheese rolling competition is a very stupid idea, I think.
Yeah.
I've seen a little of that too. That's weird too. Why the hell would you want
that dates back years as well, like a mayor of the town in Gloucester, in the 1800s basically just said, I'll roll this cheese down the hill. If you can get it, it's yours, basically. And now everyone goes crazy, to all chase and break limbs, and all at the expense of one big I think it's a 9-pound round of a wheel of cheese. So
does the cheese break apart ever?
I don't know, but I mean, crumbly cheese. I mean, we've got some crumbly cheese here, haven't we, Milo? I think some little cheesy.
So you can't see this, Rod. But Kev mailed me
Because I know Milo is such a fan of cheese.
Yeah, 3 little bags of cheese crackers, of different types of cheese cracker or cheese puffs. I don't really know what they are. I haven't opened them.
They're like solid pieces of cheese.
Yeah, it says high in protein.
Okay, are the crackers actually made out of cheese?
Let's see what this says.
I think they're just pure 100% baked cheese. Until
it says 100% cheese on the package. It says no carbs, no sugar, no junk, high protein, vegetarian friendly, gluten free, 100% cheese.
Shall we give one a go?
Yeah,
that's the real thing.
Okay.
Yep. Unadulterated cheese. Yes.
Unadulterated cheese, just whacked in the oven. And
so I'm going to try the Gouda one.
I see you have your own personal cheese.
Yeah. As per Kev. Thanks, by the way, Kev, for mailing me this cheese.
No problem, buddy. I've got Red Leicester, which is quite tangy.
Yeah, actually, it kind of tastes like, dried crunchy cheese things. It's not bad.
Like cheese croutons, aren't they?
Yeah, kind of like that. Yeah, I could see. Put these on the salad or something.
Are these beet cheese?
It's making me want cheese.
Can you hear us chewing? Is that making you want cheese too? Like
crunchy.
I'm thinking about cheese, and the only cheese I have in the fridge is American cheese slices, which is okay, but it's not. There's nothing wrong with American cheese. It's just not the best thing in the world.
Yeah, I like American sliced cheese for doing grilled cheese sandwiches because it melts so nicely.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah. I didn't mean to see. I'm not trying to say that American cheese is bad. I have some. Obviously, I eat it.
Yeah, me too.
Not.
But it's certainly not the best cheese out there, obviously, and I think anyone will.
It's a cheese for the common person.
Yeah, which is us.
Well, yeah. When we're feeling like the common people we are, we
have that.
Yeah, it's the Marvel Cinematic Universe of
cheese, mass produced.
Yeah,
every slice is pretty much the same as the others.
Just bashing out cheese after cheese after cheese, Marvel after Marvel after Marvel. So Rod, what would you say? Would you endorse those sports for people to take part in? Would you encourage people to take part in the cheese rolling, bog snorkeling, and what was the other one? Turn up football, the Shrovetide football. Would you encourage people to do
it? Seriously, I'm going to say no.
I agree.
Either of them. I really, I mean, I think it would be wrong for me to endorse that type of behavior, not to mention potentially dangerous to me if I did endorse it and somebody went ahead and did that. That's not my freaking fault.
Yeah.
No, sure. I mean, everyone that enters has got to be adults, so they're all responsible for their own actions, and there you have it. So Rod Matsui does not endorse Shrovetide football.
No, I don't endorse it at all.
The bog snorkeling seems kind of fun.
If you did it, I'll give you $20.
Ooh,
but I'll not endorse it. I'll pay you.
Each time, or just the once?
Yeah, sure, yeah. But that's not endorsing it. That's strictly a financial transaction. You do it if you wish to.
I think I might have to tap you up on the bog snorkeling one. Would be my one, I think.
Oh God, I forgot about the bog snorkeling.
That
just looks cold too.
That's messed up. Now I brought up the movie The Magic Christian. Have either of you seen that movie by any chance?
No.
It's the Peter Sellers, isn't it?
Yes, and I believe Ringo Starr is in that.
Yes, he is. Yeah, correct. Yeah.
And as I recall, the movie is about a rich person who's trying to discover the lengths to which people will go to become rich, what they will do what you do. Is there anything people won't do for money, right? And the end of the movie has lots and lots of dollar bills being stirred into a giant tank of human refuse. Okay, and which looks real, by the way. It looks like it's real sewage, raw sewage, and looks horrifying. But all these dollar bills are stirred into it, and then a crowd of people are invited in to jump into this tank of filth and get as many dollar bills as they can. And then 30 or 40 people proceed to jump in and grab the money that they can.
Yeah, that doesn't sound...
It's a good metaphor, though, of like the human society, isn't it, I suppose?
I bet you that's people would do that.
That's the end of the movie. And it appears as though, because that filth looks real, it looks like the actors really just did it. And in fact, it looks like the actors might even have been able to keep whatever they did grab while they were swimming in the filth, which you had to do to get the money out of it. And there's no dialogue, as I recall. That's how the movie just ends. It just ends by showing you, like, this is the truth. And then the end. Movie's over. Ha 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 ha. It's not a very funny or happy ending, actually. And the movie itself is quite odd.
Well, I'll check it out.
Yeah, and it is a bizarre kind of movie in some respects. And kind of like talking of bizarre, I want to have a little quick chat with you about the Scanners, obviously movie franchise that you did some work on, and where you created a really ambitious mechanical SFX for the splitting head in Scanners 2, the Showdown. So can you tell us more how you created that? Because I saw that and I thought that's amazing. Like, it's for the time and the era that it was created in. How did you create it, and how would that differ from like the iconic exploding head that was created by Gary Zeller in the original Scanner movie?
Okay, well, I do want to nod over in Gary Zeller's direction for his pyro effect. And Mark Schwartz, I believe, was one of the artists that built that gelatin head that they... Okay, I'm going to have to look that one up. But Dick Smith and Chris Wayless and many other people were involved in the various effects scenes in the first Scanners movie. And
I'm aware that Gary, I think he shot the head. I think I
believe you're correct. Yeah, he actually did the exploding of the head. He was the pyro guy, as we say, pyrotechnics technician or artist. Which is is that not a beautiful exploding gelatin head?
Oh, it's
gorgeous.
Incredible. And for the time and the era of, today that would all be CGI, essentially. The creativity there to do that at the time and to make it look realistic is incredible. So what about your the splitting head, because the effects
the splitting up. Well, that Scanners movie, which was released in the United States as Scanners: The Showdown, that was a sequel to Scanner Cop. One of the many Scanners sequels, and our movie, Scanners: The Showdown, had some exploding people also, but we wanted to add other things to the effects plate and do other things besides just blow people up. There were different melting and imploding effects, and puppets were made that could show people kind of shriveling up and crumpling down. Some of those puppets were built by a bunch of other people, and of course Chris Robbins and Nick Mara were in there kind of supervising the puppet construction. And this one, the guard whose face splits open, That's just a makeup, believe it or not. Like it's a rubber piece that's mostly on one side of his head. Okay. And it's built out deliberately because I wanted the effect that I kind of had this image of taking a grapefruit, for example, and just digging my fingers into the grapefruit and ripping it open sideways and just stretching the whole grapefruit apart and looking at this kind of hole inside, right? I wanted it to look like that. So the sculpture was done to just create the impression that a portion of his skull was grabbed and cracked open and pulled off of his face. Now, this was all built up on top of his head, so any impression that you're looking inside his head is part of the illusion. See, that's not a puppet head, that's actually the actor. So the sculpture is designed to have lines that make you perceive the idea that his head has split open and has opened like a clamshell almost, right? And your eye seeing that, like when you look at the design, that the effect is created by the shape of the clay sculpture that was done on that guy's face cast. And then once that was made as a rubber appliance, it was then rigged up with a moving eyeball and a couple of other cables inside the rubber piece that could pull on that thing and make it open a little bit wider while the eyeball was also moving. That's a really good example of a mechanical effect that usually you'd build a whole mechanical head for. But in this case, we got a lot out of a much smaller construction and very simple mechanics that were operated through cables running basically back the guy's in back of the actor's neck and down his shirt.
Oh. Was that reusable, or was it kind of a one and done type of thing?
Typically, appliances, because they have very fine blending edges that deteriorate upon removal, and they're made out of very weak materials, they can only be used once.
Okay.
If they're reusable, they're usually designed in a special way to make them reusable.
That's kind of like that's a key take moment, isn't it? You know, for filming wise, because obviously they've got to we've got to get this shot.
Yeah. Don't screw it up.
Well, yeah, because you might have a couple of actors in expensive makeup, but then you've also got the camera people, the sound people, and whatever crew that there is. Everyone is being paid to be there and record, to film this sequence. And you better get it while everybody's there, or you are costing everybody a lot of money.
Absolutely.
They're breathing down your neck. Absolutely.
Well, that's cool, though, like the way you were able to do the special effects along with the makeup, especially because, CGI wasn't really used then, which is pretty much, what they would have done now. Speaking of stuff, I watched Monstrosity after our last call. And I'm aware that you watched Monstrosity. Yeah, you saw my review.
I did. I watched it, and you might even have seen my comment. I
did, yeah. Uh-huh.
I was surprised. Okay, wow. Okay, what would you like to know about Monstrosity?
Yeah, I need to say, first of all, that's a hard film to find. Like we did some searching to track that film down, the DVD of that film. Okay, but here's the thing with Monstrosity. So like there's a scene, there's all these intestines, like that are they getting reused from one? So like there was like the girl's intestine, like the intestines going in the guy. There was the girl's intestines coming out. Were all those the same intestines, just reused for each scene?
Actually, no.
Oh, we thought they were.
No, I'd have thought so as well, to be fair.
Yeah.
No, because I think you're talking about the intestines going into Frankie.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
The monster,
and
not the intestines being pulled out of
the girl.
I forget the character, but yeah, the girl played by Audra Ribeiro.
Yeah.
I believe those were actually two different things.
Oh, okay.
But I'm actually not sure, and I would go back. I'm going to go look at the film again just to check to make sure that I'm telling you that accurately, because I actually don't remember. We could have reused them, sure.
Okay, yeah, because it kind of seemed like it. It's funny because that film, it's terribly edited. Like I love cheesy B movies like this, but the editing on that film is not good.
Okay. Have you seen any other Andy Milligan films?
No, that's the thing. I have a feeling they're all within that style. I would imagine so.
Oh, your feeling is correct. and it's true. I think people. There's a general understanding that I agree with, that Milligan was pretty much the bottom of the barrel of no budget filmmakers. This was the very low end of that. The very you could go with non-actors playing characters, and hire anybody. It just doesn't matter. Just get it done. And yeah, they're trying to pad it out for runtime. So yeah, they're writing a lot of additional scenes that do nothing but just extend the runtime. Although I do think there is a story to Monstrosity that's very interesting. That initially the monster is built to avenge the murder of the girl, but after that's accomplished, the students who have built the monster go through different levels of becoming power mad and become monstrous themselves, and then use the monster to go out murdering anybody they think is, deserving of being excommunicated from society, drug addicts, killers, etc. And then in the end, the monster ends up killing,
his creators.
And goes off. Yeah, killing his creators. So there's a moral arc there.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually, because it basically the storyline of the reason why the monster was created pretty much ends halfway through the movie, and then it turns into like the love story with the monster and the girl, and then the story of the monster's relationship with the guys, who are then basically just saying, "Hey, we got this guy. Let's go out and take out everybody who we think is a bad person and use them for that."
Well, there's no reason to murder the girl.
No, that was ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, they do that just because, I don't know. I think just because they want her out of the way. They believe that the love Frankie and Jamie Lee share together pollutes their control over the power of the monster.
Yeah,
or something like that. It's unusually subtle.
Yeah,
there's definitely a story of retribution in there. In some ways, like you said, there's that moral element, but it is a great cult horror film. I think for its kind of badness, like Milo said, in terms of like the editing and thing. I mean, that's what makes it,
it's one of those films that you have to appreciate it for what it is.
Yeah,
exactly.
And I mean, I still love your story about kind of like hiding the Gumby.
I was looking for the Gumby and I couldn't find it.
So you clearly did it well.
I don't think you can see the Gumby in that scene.
Okay, because I was looking for it because I knew it would be there.
Yeah, the dark romances from 1986, which was immediately previous to Monstrosity, that had a Gumby in it that definitely showed up on screen.
Oh, okay.
I do really love the kind of that. That's the Rod Matsui kind of Easter egg thing, which I really love that. And there's talking of more obvious like physical effects in movies, like the mask you made for Frank LaLoggia's The Lady in White, but you also restored one of the original Geiger alien suits, didn't you, Rod? And I really would love to hear some more about that.
And I don't know how to pronounce Geiger's name or Giger's name. I've always called him Giger. I've heard Giger and Giger, and
I'm sure there's been every iteration of Giger, Geiger. I just go by Geiger counter, and that's my take. But yeah, I'd love to know about that kind of the suit.
Why don't we go with Geiger just because of you like Geiger counter, and we'll go with that. But yes, I restored one of the original Alien costumes. Yes. What would you like to know about that? Because many people don't know about that.
Yeah, I mean, I just kind of, in some ways, just how you kind of, how you got to that point, because not everyone can get their hands on a Geiger, aliens,
Yeah. So is it like yours? Like you got it and decided to restore it, or was it a work project? Or
this was strictly a work project that I was paid for, and it belonged to somebody else, and it was being restored and put back together so that it could be sold at auction. And it was sold at auction for, I think, something like $175,000.
Damn.
Or something like that. Okay.
And what year would this have been around, roughly?
This would have been around 2005 or 6, I think.
Yeah,
I could be wrong, but that's around there. So 2005.
It's a hefty old fee, but massively sought after kind of item. So what kind of state was the suit in when you got it? Because obviously you restored it, but it must have been in a certain level of acceptance, or it must have been.
It was a pile of shreds of pieces that mainly constituted the bodysuit of the creature, because there was no head. And there was no mannequin to assemble the suit onto either. And another person built a mannequin of sufficient stature to the proper measurements that I could glue the suit onto. So I took all the suit sections that there were and assembled them over this plastic mannequin, which was posable with wire inside, so we could kind of mess around with it. And wherever there were pieces that were just gone, I filled it in with something that looked like the original costume. Sometimes I would have to create a piece, a little section to go in where something just wasn't there anymore or had disintegrated completely.
It's actually total kind of new rebuild kind of thing on those sections. What
was it made? Sorry, what was it made out of?
Okay, the suit, the bodysuit was made out of latex rubber. It was fairly thin in the arms and legs and hands, and strengthened with cheesecloth. There was a layer of cheesecloth attached to the latex rubber layers on the inside to give some fibrous strength. So it can be thin, but still kind of tough because of the fiber from the cheesecloth. And certain areas like the rib cage that had strong bone structures in front, those were actually cast inside a mold out of latex that was mixed with ground cork. And the reason for that is that, if you work with latex a lot, you know that latex shrinks. And the more you fill it with non-shrinking fillers, the less the shrinking effect will cause distortion. And ground cork mixed with rubber and brushed into the molds will dry with a much lower shrinkage rate and stay about the same size, but it will also be lightweight and tough and semi-rigid. So these
kind of behaves like a setting agent, I suppose, in a way that it stops it kind of at that point, yet you can still use it.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I would call it a filler. It takes the latex and thickens it into a paste that I suppose you could butter into the mold in layers and allow it to dry. But the fact that the cork itself does not shrink, that only the rubber in between the particles of cork is shrinking, that reduces the shrink level that it keeps the size accurate, because the rib cage was one of the sections of the suit that was completely unharmed. It was like this latex and cork thing. I believe that is a British construction technique, because I've never seen that done here in the United States. And it looked like something very old school. So I think it was some serious British craftspeople constructing the suit.
How long did it take you to restore?
Something like 4 months.
Wow.
It took a long time. I had to rebuild the head completely. That took a couple of months by itself. Yeah. I had a rubber head that fit onto the body pretty good, but I didn't have a dome, the clear plastic dome that goes over the top. So that had to be fabricated from scratch and vacuum formed and then trimmed and then attached to the rubber head. And then the rubber head was fitted with newly sculpted sets of teeth, including the telescoping jaw on the inside of the first mouth. And then I put acrylic translucent membranes on the outside of the jaws. And this was all done as much as I could to match photographs of the one you see in close-up in the film. That it was worn by Edwin Powell, as I think I wrote down somewhere. And Edwin Powell played the alien only for these scenes requiring wire flying. So the scenes where the alien is lowering itself down from the ceiling or hanging from the ceiling curled up, kind of defying gravity. The scenes where it flies out of the airlock and is holding on by the cable with the harpoon going through its chest. Those things were all done by Ed Powell, not the other actor who played the character most of the time. Bolaji Badejo, I believe, is the actor that played the xenomorph in most of the scenes, because he was extremely slender and somewhat taller than Edwin Powell, and was an experienced mime, I believe. And that's why you got the unnatural, weird motions out of the alien that you see when Badejo is performing the character.
It's cool that you were able to work on that. I'm
glad you've given us extra kind of insight into that as well, because, like you say, not many people know about that. So many people, I'm sure, many people would be interested.
Even I do not know who the costume eventually sold to, because apparently that is private information. I've asked about it. No one can legally tell me.
You think that the guy that kind of reconstructed the whole thing would have at least...
Yeah, or the guy that bought it to show it off and be like, look what I have.
Yeah, well, I was kind of hoping the guy who bought it would call me, knowing that I worked on it, asking if I could maybe tell that person some secrets that he doesn't, that he or she doesn't know at this point. Whoever that
there could be so much more kind of information.
Autograph it on the inside somewhere. Rebuilt by Rod Matsui.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. It was certainly an honor to work on it. I thought, yeah. And how did I get there? How did I get to a point where I was working on that? I was fixing film props for a guy who was, I guess, finding film props that were falling apart. And this was the biggest job that came through his collection of props, was this thing. A person that he knew called him up and said, I've got the alien costume, but it's falling apart. I want to sell it, but I need to fix it up. And he said, I know a guy who can do that. And so a little arrangement was made. And it began. I didn't realize it was going to take 4 months, but it did.
Yeah,
awesome project.
It didn't pay that much, but it did pay. It paid the rent.
Well,
yeah, sure.
How do you bid on that? Do you bid by, like, you just think it's going to take this amount of time and involve this much work, so you just say this is the price, or do you bill by hour?
In that case, it was more of a flat. It was, I just thought, flat, right? Okay, my sensibility was, this will take maybe 2.5 months.
Right.
I charged an amount of money that I thought was appropriate to that, not realizing it's basically going to take about twice that long, and you're just going to have to eat it, you know?
Yeah.
Literally, yeah. It's like, a third of a year. But yeah, I think Milo's got a few. We've got a few viewer questions. I think Milo's got one or maybe two there. I think.
Yep. So we got some questions for you, Rod. So Monica 586 from New Hampshire asks, what are your thoughts on witches, wizards, and goblins, real beings, creatures, anything like that? So she must have listened to our Bigfoot stuff. So witches, wizards, and goblins.
What do I think about those things? Okay. Well, seeing as the question is posed in a slightly vague way, in a slightly generic way, I'm going to counter that question by doing a kind of an illustrative discussion. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Milo. Okay, you'll see how this works in a second. I'm going to ask Milo what Milo thinks about ghosts. Do you believe in ghosts, for example?
Not really. I'm very skeptical on a lot of stuff. I would like to believe in ghosts. I think it would be freaking super cool if ghosts were real, but I have yet to experience anything that makes me believe in them. Not saying that they're not real, but so far I have yet to see anything that makes me believe in.
I like that response. It's you didn't say they're not real. You said you don't believe in them, and that's almost word for word the response that one of the characters says in the movie The Ghosts of Hanley House. He says, "Hey, come on! I'm not saying ghosts aren't real. I'm saying I don't believe in them. That's all. Sure, I'll spend a night in your haunted house to see what's in there, if anything. Yeah, I'll take your $20 bet." So yeah, I enjoy that. I was kind of hoping you would say yes, because then I was gonna drag you over the coals for saying yes and say, like, well, if you believe in ghosts, then can you define what they are?
What about yourself then, Rod, on the to answer our viewers' question on, I think, was it? What are your
goblins definitely can't be real. So I guess, you have people that are like, hey, I'm a witch, I'm a wizard, I do my spells and, I'm in my groups, but can they actually perform magic, like real magic, not sleight of hand, magic show magic? I don't know.
Okay. Well, let's see I'm trying. What's the name of the questioner again? I forgot.
Monica. Hey,
yeah. Monica. Yeah. I don't know. I'm not sure how to answer that question, Monica. However, I think you can refer back to my earlier discussion from the previous podcast about reality being a continuous phenomenon. I basically believe that the vast majority of everything we know in reality is an unknown, and we're merely acquainted with it, and we don't understand it. So in terms of, if you're asking me, do I believe all kinds of things possibly exist? I'd say, yeah. The things you mentioned specifically, I don't know. Depends on the thing you mentioned. But goblins, I don't know. I'm not sure. I wouldn't be surprised, though, if there was something out there that some people, if they bumped into it, they'd say, yeah, that's a goblin.
Yeah, I suppose it's all about the interpretation of the things that we see and what we would say, oh, yeah, that's a such and such, even if it looks, acts, and behaves totally different to, say, if Milo saw a ghost, he might not actually realize that it was a ghost.
Maybe.
Yeah, that's another question too. Yeah, how do you know what you're seeing?
If you've never seen it, yeah. we're only seeing other people's, so-called interpretations or, examples or discussions of things that, unless we see something ourselves, how will we know? How would you know? Yeah.
I spoke to somebody, for example, okay, I know somebody who once said, "Oh, I know for a fact that ghosts exist because a friend of mine died at one point, and for several days afterward, I would hear his car coming up the driveway, and I would see the lights turn out. And so that's proof that there are spirits, you see." I personally think that he's even though he may have experienced that, I think that he's drawing he's making an assumption.
Yeah, it might be like the whole replacement kind of thing, and that's partially
hearing things he wants to hear versus what he's actually hearing.
Constructing a reality.
He might very well have heard those things, but does that prove that spirits exist? He's obviously got. I'm not saying this guy's wrong or right, but I'm saying a lot of people believe or disbelieve something based on their preconception of what they think exists, which is purely imaginary. Even if I say, do you believe in ghosts? The very word ghost is subject to your interpretation of what that means. And I'm sure it means something different for many different people.
Yeah, I definitely think there's a heightened sense of constructed reality there in terms of, like you're saying, that yes, you could hear those noises, but it doesn't mean that they are actually, it's not Derek that, passed away, two doors down or whatever. It's just a sound, an everyday sound that you may hear, but you've associated it. Yeah.
I didn't want to mention Ouija boards, but if you use a Ouija board and you think something is trying to talk to you through it, how do you know that it is what it claims that it is?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it definitely brings in that kind of, like I say, I think people are using, I think it's like sometimes like especially maybe in grief and things, it's like a form of comfort to people, even if it's, it's not, it's kind of like subconsciously done. They think, oh yeah, I've just ex-partner or whatever, or my spouse or whatever, and they hear a noise, they associate it with them, and so it brings in a form of comfort because they feel that person is kind of still with them, because there's an acceptance of loss, isn't there? That's got to come towards
self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Where you want to talk to the dead person because you miss them. So during the session where you have the seance or whatever, you're going to be doing things to contribute to the idea that you're being successful, because that's why you're there in the first place.
Yeah, you definitely could be more receptive to it. But Milo, I mean, I know you did just kind of turn that question onto Milo a little bit here, but we're actually on our mini feature now, which is Ask an American again, and you get another chance to pose Milo. So your question, your totally unscripted question for Milo, Rod.
Oh, it sucks because that was my unscripted question.
Oh, well, perfect. It's been answered.
I was gonna.
Milo's like, quick, next thing. Unless you can think of something else on the top of your, No pressure.
Ooh. If you drink soda, what's your favorite soda?
Ooh.
I like root beer, cream soda. I like those that style, I guess. I don't drink a lot of soda, truthfully. But yeah, probably a root beer or a cream soda.
What's your favorite root beer, and do you miss root beer from
you can't really, it's harder you can find it here, it's just much harder to find, so I have found it, but no, I don't really have a favorite of either.
I don't have like a special brand. Milo, like no brand.
Ginger beer is the UK non-alcoholic beer. That's
ginger beer. Yeah.
It's a spicy kind of a brown carbonated thing, and ginger is a root, although it's not the same as the flavors used for root beer. But I like both of those things, and as a matter of fact, I had a cream soda just yesterday because I had not had a cream soda in years, and I thought, I'm going to have a cream soda. And so I did. Darn it.
I'm glad you did. I'm jealous, actually, because I actually want one now.
I'll just talk about cream soda.
Okay.
Well, I should do a shout out to Jones Soda from Seattle, since that's my hood.
It's coming out now. His brand placement's coming out now.
Jones
Soda root beer. And I think they do a cream soda too. I don't remember if they do cream soda.
Sodas, I believe. I've seen them do spooky Halloween labels for their sodas.
Yeah, they do seasonal stuff and different things that will come and go. At some point, I'm sure they've had a cream soda, but I know they have a root beer. I just don't remember if they have a cream soda or not.
They're kind of artsy, aren't they? They're sort of cutting edge microbrew.
They're the microbrew sodas.
They like a craft soda company, yeah?
Yep. Seattle based. My hood. All right, Rod. So since we got the question to me, you have a badly drawn bamboo for Kev. Let us see your badly drawn bamboo.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's have a look at that.
Crazy. He looks like a madman. Like a zombie.
Yeah, I mean that's
just kind of his natural look, actually.
That could be, pretty accurate to reality. I mean,
I
reckon you've got the beard going on quite nice.
Of you, I looked at a picture of you and was kind of sketching it off of you, but there was a craziness in your eyes that I was trying to capture, and I could only do it if I just kind of shut my eyes very tight and went internally, and then and then I do a little wiggle around the eyes, and that's the crazy eye that he's got. Yeah, okay.
That is
completely insane.
There's an accuracy going on there. I'm all over it. But yeah, so show it up again, Rod. Just I've got to rate this.
Isn't that,
so if I rate it high, it means it was really bad. I think if I rate it really low, it was really, really good in terms of badly drawn bamboo. So yeah, let's have a look. So I am going to give that a. Yeah, you got the kind of beard right, and I like the theory on the crazy eyes and stuff. Even though I've got really tiny eyes, but so I'm going to give that a 6.5 out of 10. I think.
I wasn't hoping for more than that. That's about right. That's what I would have given it.
That's like an average to bad.
It didn't take more than a couple of minutes,
I thought you'd spent hours on it, Rod. Like I thought you was going to bill me for kind of 4 months worth of work.
4 months worth of drawing.
I can do that if you want.
I don't want to receive the bill. I'm worried now about receiving the bill. But no, that's I really loved your drawing. As always on this show. Milo, where can people send any badly drawn bamboos to?
Well, if you have a badly drawn bamboo audience, you can send it on Instagram to bamboo_creatives. That's BMBOO_creatives. And Kev will get that, and it will be featured on a future episode of Rip It Up.
Indeed, it will.
You like my announcer voice there?
I love it. That's very
authoritative.
Really comforting. I knew you wouldn't disappoint me in the badly drawn bamboo stakes, Rod. So we've got a couple more viewer questions in. So we have, and I think these are people. Last one was from the US, wasn't it? These are from the UK. So we've got Hales SB from the Midlands in the UK asked, what was your favourite film to work on, and which actor did you like the least? Ooh. It's like a double question, that.
How could I possibly answer that second part? How could I say that?
Yeah, he's in the industry. Like, he can't say the least. He'll get blacklisted.
Well, no, especially since when I think about it, I just don't think in those terms. Like, what's the worst actor you've ever worked with? I just.
Oh, they didn't say the worst actor. They just said who did you like the least?
So maybe, who did I like?
Yeah, maybe they were a pain in the butt or something.
So favorite film and like the least. I mean, I do remember from the previous show, I know that this wasn't necessarily actor, but also in production, you spoke about on Freddy's Dead before about some of the crew working for the other special effects team, and you had an experience there. So maybe, that's a little memory jogger there, but.
Oh yeah, well, Freddy's Dead was interesting in that respect because there were multiple makeup effects teams working on the film, and occasionally we did overlap and bump into each other. Yeah, which was complex.
There's a bit of a kind of a us versus them kind of scenario going on, even if you didn't necessarily feel that way yourself.
I noticed it, and it was because it was a job, and because I just understood that it was my job to be in there in the overlap. It just became a matter of, I guess, diplomacy, because you've got two or three people with makeup brushes and paints, and they're all trying to get over to Robert Englund to paint some blood or something on them. And depending on what you're contractually obligated to do, you either can get in there and do something or you can't, right? Sure. So whenever Freddy Krueger got stabbed, when we did reshoots and did stabbing close-ups, there were a few moments where I had to come in and glue something onto Robert Englund or dress his wounds with fake blood or something, or put a wound on him. And that was that type of situation. There would be an overlap where typically MMI we're not working on Freddy Krueger, but whenever Freddy Krueger got injured, then we got in there and started gluing stuff, in some cases on top of the makeup that David Miller's crew had done. And that was weird too, gluing makeup on top of somebody else's makeup.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of like a little...
That made it extra complicated.
Yeah, like a
not unpleasant, because like I said, it was the job was to do that. Sure. So it was just a matter of getting in there and doing it and getting it filmed and then going home.
So do you have a favorite film?
A favorite film? Gosh, it's a split maybe between What's Eating Gilbert Grape and Freddy's Dead, because those were both really enjoyable experiences. Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the TV show, I was on that for a while. That was a lot of fun too.
Oh, that's cool. I'm a huge fan of that series.
Yeah, I'm a kind of closet fan of that. But Milo seems like an out and out.
What did you do on Buffy? Was it?
That was all technical. That was working in the lab, and it was refining the rubber vampire appliances. Most of the job was touching up and refining the vampire makeup appliances before they went out to set to get applied.
Sorry, Rod. Yeah, was there a lot of bladder work in Buffy? Like, was there a lot of bladders used in there?
Well, no. Buffy was not, as I recall, it wasn't really a bladder show. No. Mm-hmm. What there was a lot of was your basic vampire face appliance with the mean brow and the covering over the eyebrows and giving you these 45-degree angle kind of snarly lines. And mostly it was that. A lot of those went out. And there were multiple sizes. There were some generics that were made to fit many different people. And then there were specific appliances that were sculpted to fit specific actors, depending on who it was.
They were like custom sized to fit those particular actors, yeah?
Yes. Yeah. It was kind of an assembly line job, just getting these things ready and out in plastic bags to go out to set so somebody could glue them on and color them and get them get them out in front of a camera.
We've got another one for you, Rod. It's from Res 76 in Derbyshire. Res.
Okay.
So you already answered the question of how you got the job to refurbish the Geiger alien. Did you, in the process at any point in time, get to use the suit? As in, did you put it on yourself?
That would be awesome.
No, I didn't. No, but and that's simply because the suit was never available to be slipped into. It was being assembled, literally glued piece by piece into assembly over a mannequin. So there never was a time when I could climb inside the suit. There have been many opportunities, however, on other films to put on a mask that somebody has taken off and thrown in the trash.
Oh yeah.
I'm not going to say what film that was.
What was it? The Frankie in the Frankie mask in Monstrosity? No. It wasn't Monstrosity, because that was little appliances that. Oh, that's true, and that was mostly just hair. As his orange afro. And
so you've really got my mind, ticking with that now, because I'm thinking of you kind of trying on these different masks from some great films that you've worked on, and just like, oh yeah, I'll give that one a go.
Yeah. Give that one a go. Film, I will say it's a film that we've already talked about before. So think about somebody ripping a rubber mask off their head and throwing it in the trash because they can't use it a second time, because it's an appliance, and it should be pretty easy to figure out what character I put on after I saw it in the trash can.
Absolutely. Well, we'll keep the secret. We'll keep the secret there, but we know we know what you're talking about.
All right.
And you realize, by the way, too, right? You realize that 90% of what I've done and seen, I cannot talk about. And I'm only telling you this. You know that, right? There's all kinds of stuff. Like, you're asking me these questions, like, well, what's the most exciting thing that's ever happened to you? Well,
these are just viewer questions who are really interested in your career, and we just left that as an open forum and picked out some of the best ones. So
that is the catch, audience, of the film industry, is there's a lot of NDAs that get signed. There's a lot of filmmakers want their films to be what you see on the screen, so that way they create that illusion. If people like Rod are out here talking about all the behind the stuff, it kind of ruins that illusion.
Yeah, or maybe it's just like stuff that I just can't talk about. It might not be something that I signed a non-disclosure agreement for at all. It might be just a really embarrassing story that really happened that I just couldn't talk about because it would embarrass anybody that was mentioned,
Yeah. Understandable.
There was a time once I've had.
So now you're gonna kiss and tell. He's like,
you want to? I'll tell you a story, because I can't tell you who it was. But I was working on a film, a Larry Cohen film, and there was a beautiful actress that was walking towards me. We were on location at a house in Hollywood, and she had to walk on a path of decorative stones on the front lawn. It was one of the front lawn was soft earth, and so they put those walking path stones that you walk on.
Mm-hmm.
And she was walking towards me to go and do something. She was one of the actors in the film, and she was wearing high heels and a beautiful gown. And as she approached me, her foot started to sink into the soft earth and get caught on the stone that she was walking on. And she started to trip and fall over. And this is a woman that I had seen in movies for years. And as she started to fall over, she realized, I could see in her eyes, she didn't want to ruin the expensive dress she was wearing because it's needed for camera, right? She was going to be in front of a camera in a couple of minutes. And she made the decision, well, I'll just fall on this young man who's 20 years old or so, standing over here in the shade, and looked at me this is all happening in a split second. She's making this decision. I'll just fall on him. He'll stop me from falling in the mud. I won't be in trouble from production. And I give her a kind of a look like, you're going to fall on me? Okay, fine. I don't care. And she then does that. And then she apologized to me saying, I'm awfully sorry. And I said, it's quite all right. You know, I have fallen in the mud to prevent her from falling into it. And I get up and brush myself off as she walks away. Very nice. Beautiful actor. It's very charming. And I understood absolutely. She wasn't trying to like make a date with me. I was quite aware of that. And I was very happy to prevent her from getting in trouble with production. They don't usually, like on a lot of low budget movies, they don't have duplicate costumes for everybody. They can't afford it. That might have been the only dress of that kind they had.
It makes sense. I mean, she was being a professional. She's like, what's more important here? This dress over anything else. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the dress gets messy. That's delaying the shoot and potentially costing money.
Yeah. Rod, you can't see, because on Rip It Up this in this second season that we've got, me and Milo have now gone to extra camera angles and things that we started, playing around with. So okay. on camera 2 of mine, which I'm just pointing to over here and looking into right now. So behind me on either of my shoulders, Milo doesn't know this as well, I've got a Bigfoot wearing shades. It's an image of a Bigfoot wearing shades, and he's actually riding the Loch Ness Monster, like wakeboarding on the Loch Ness Monster. But you'll see that.
Did you say he's wearing cheese?
No, he's wearing shades, like glasses, sunglasses. Yeah.
To be honest, knowing Kev, I would believe that he would have cheese.
Could easily got some cheese eyes.
So to wear shades, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, he's got sunshades on. He's wakeboarding on a Loch Ness Monster in the loch. And I think behind it is like a desert island. I think there is like a little, just right down, I'll move out and you'll be able to see.
Wow.
Yeah, there's like a desert island. So it's almost like a Walter Mitty's fantasy island. So this image is like a kind of, an amalgamation of kind of folklore, I guess. It would
make me really happy if like 30 seconds ago, you started to fade in a public domain copy of Tchaikovsky's Nutcracker Suite. The Dance of the Sugar Plum Fairies. I think that's a perfect background track to be using for this. Don't you think? It's working fine, right?
It certainly would, as long as we don't get copyrighted on it.
Yeah, until we get copyright flagged.
We might get flagged.
Copyright violation.
There's public domain.
I'll see if I can find a public domain.
Yeah, some classical stuff is pretty free.
Yeah.
I have a question, by the way. Yeah, you want to hear something funny?
Sure.
Do you guys know of a band from the 80s, a new wave band or whatever you want, a rock band called The Fix? Fixx?
I don't think so.
No, I don't.
Okay. It could be that I'm just like old and it's from that time. But they had a great album called
music's transcendental, isn't it? It can be any era.
Yeah,
I know a ton of 60s music, but
they're a British band, Kev. I mean, come on.
Yeah, but there's tons of British bands.
I don't even
I know nothing about my own country.
Okay, well they had a song called "Saved by Zero."
Okay.
And it's very, very catchy. And
that sounds familiar.
Go find The Fix, "Saved by Zero," and it's got a real catchy hook, and it goes, "Maybe someday, saved by zero." Okay, got it.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I started. I was listening to the song while I was reading something about Bigfoot, and I started thinking, well, what if we just did a variation of the song called "Saved by Bigfoot," and it's exactly the same, but whenever he says zero, then you just sing Bigfoot instead, and then the background
switch it out.
Saved by Bigfoot, like that, right? It's really funny. Try it.
Saved by Bigfoot.
Everybody, yeah. Saved by Bigfoot. Yeah.
Cool if I heard this. Yeah, if I heard the song, that'd be cool.
That does sound familiar. That tune does. Saved by
Bigfoot.
That is a serious groove.
I reckon it's probably going to be one of those tunes that, because there's loads of tunes by bands in the UK that no one knows the band name, or not many people know the band name, but then they know, and they don't even know the name of the song, but that everyone knows the tune. I mean, not even a band, but there's tons of classical pieces of music that are used by the BBC in between, like for idents on TV shows, and also on nature programs. And everybody knows, everyone that's seen those programs knows the music. And there's a pianist called Ludovico Einaudi, who I'm a massive fan of anyway, before the pieces that I was aware of that were used on the BBC. And I was listening one time, I was like, oh yeah, I recognize that piece of music. And then I found out that it was Einaudi. But I've said to people, oh, have you heard of, Ludovico Einaudi? And they're like, nah, I don't know him at all. And it's like, yeah, but I bet you've heard his music because it's just used so frequently on these idents.
Right.
So it's so that the fix tune could be, I'm going to give it a listen after the show, and I'll probably be like, oh yeah, bloody hell, I know that song.
Yeah, it's probably one of those things. You know the song, and then just can't think of it.
I think like The Chain. I think that's another tune. It's a great tune, and it's just in the UK at least. Everyone knows it. It's the one that's just a riff that's boom, ba ba doom, da 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 doom, doom, and in the UK that is everyone will know that tune. Me doing that, everyone in the UK will know that tune, but they won't necessarily know the title or the artist.
Like everybody knows the Hammer Dracula theme from James Bernard, right? The da da da. Dracula.
Yeah.
Taste the blood of Dracula.
Dracula. Dun, dun, dun.
Dracula.
Dun, dun, dun.
Sometimes in the commentaries, Christopher Lee and some of the other actors did commentaries for the Dracula films, and occasionally they'll do that. They'll start humming Dracula because it's so much fun.
I like that.
Have to look those up.
That's cool.
We mentioned Bigfoot there for a second. So here's a question for you, Rod.
Okay.
So as a, fan of Loch Ness, Bigfoot, Chupacabra, all that kind of stuff, how would you go about, as a special effects artist, creating the most convincing fake history of a mythology creature? So how would you basically fake one of these?
How would I fake... You mean like any animal?
Animal? Let's say you were going to create a Loch Ness monster. Like, how would you create the Loch Ness monster to fake it, to make people think that it actually exists?
Like the most convincing fake or the genuine fake or whatever. Yeah. How would you go?
I don't know. No, I think my answer to this question is a little strange. I think it's already been done. I think
we're talking about you, Rod. Like, what would you do? Not what anyone else would do. What would you do with, to make a mythological or so-called mythological creature used to create a fake? How would you go about doing it? Because you've got the skills.
That's what I'm trying to say here. I would do exactly what has been done because it works. Like
you've actually, I might have gone out into, the woods or a forest, and I've seen a Bigfoot, and actually it's a Bigfoot made. It's got a scribe on it saying made by Rod Matsui, or I've gone out to Scotland and I've been at the loch, and I've seen the old head pop up, and it's a mechanical piece created by you.
Wow, that's. You come up with some very interesting questions.
I'm just theorizing, really. I'm saying that that's kind of like the irony of, if I'm out there one day now, I'm like, I see it and I'm like, yeah, that's Rod. Rod's done that.
Well, I have actually created fake ghost photos, and put them online saying that they're real. I've done fakes. It's not like I haven't done that.
That's cool, because that's kind of what's being asked, I suppose, in the questions. How would you go about making one of the best fakes in history?
Okay, I think I can address your question a little better then. Okay, yeah, I made one ghost photo that I thought was just freaking brilliant. I made up a fake story about it. I found some photos on the internet that I put together and photo composited. I just found a picture of the side of a freeway, a kind of like a dirt grade at the edge of a freeway, in the dark, taken in flash photography, and I composited in an element of a painting of a woman in a Victorian dress, and made it translucent, and also kind of messed around with the face to make it sort of cartoonish and unreal, kind of mess with the reality of it. And then over the top of everything, I found a picture of some smoke, and then composited a thin layer of wispy smoke over the whole image, just to further confuse the mind as to what it was looking at. And then I put the image up somewhere online with a story that it's a stretch of highway somewhere near me in Los Angeles, which is known for being haunted by this woman. And this is a photograph, a real photograph of the ghost. And I liked it. I think it fooled some people, but I don't know where it is now. I'd have trouble finding that photo, but I have done it.
I like though how you actually how you said you tried to make it not look convincing, and yet people were still, very much,
convinced
bought
by it?
into the whole illusion of it. Yeah.
Well, a lot of the early spiritualist fake photography examples will include some kind of double exposure of a drawn character that is like something like a painting or a drawing on paper that is itself two-dimensional and not really very beautifully done either. So it looks unreal, but that fooled a lot of people. Like there was an ethereal quality to the cartoonishness of it that actually convinced people. And so that was an effort to make it as though if a spirit were trying to record a picture on film, it was having trouble making a perfect replica of itself in its previous life. And so the features of the face are kind of formed, like imperfectly or crudely. And to me, I thought it looked a lot creepier that way.
Yeah, I liked it. I like the approach.
Yeah, it's like a psychological effect, right? You know that someone is going to be staring at it and trying to figure out what it is for realism. So you deliberately throw something in that looks somewhat fake, and I'd call that a distraction. Other people, I've talked with other people about this before. It's called a false flaw, where you are presenting a piece of artwork and you deliberately put something there to draw the audience's attention away from what the real truth is. In this case, it's a completely fake ghost photo. But
yeah, it's a whole deflection. Yeah,
you have to get inside the audience's head, I think, or try
and see what they're seeing from their kind of point of view.
Help them think, yeah.
So, Rod, I've got another great one here for you, which is if you was kind of, this is hypothetical, obviously, but if you was in a desert island scenario, what is the one item or possession that you'd take with you? It can only be one thing.
Oh, it would have to be my multi-tool. It would be one of those multi-tools with the old.
There's a trend. There's a trend happening here.
Good answer.
Well, I would want to be able to kill a coconut crab. If there was a really big crab that was big enough to like rip my arms off and stuff, I'd want something that I could at least give it a good run for its money.
Give it a good old jab, just
over the head, split its skull, maybe
kill it with a coconut.
With I'd try with a coconut. Maybe I'd put the blade on top of the crab's head and then pop it with the coconut on top, for the energy.
Yeah, a little double one. It's like the old, bit of a surface area pressure job. Yep, straight down.
Oh, you know what? Wait, can I change my answer?
Yeah.
There's a machete that I have that also has like a saw blade and some tools attached if you unscrew it. Okay, so I'm thinking actually the machete would be better or the machete, so that I could swing it. It's got a handle, and that would really take out. So like if there's any kind of a big animal at all, I'd really be able to chop that sucker pretty good. Is that
kind of like a sickled machete almost, like a little, beacon?
Yeah. Even if there was a wolf on the island or a small bear, maybe even a cat, I'd be able to. Maybe. I don't know. They're out there.
I've not done my meow sound effects yet.
Yeah.
There's cats everywhere. Cats are very, very dangerous.
They're all over the place. So my ears are going nuts.
It's a very cat-filled episode.
I'm just waiting for one to walk across Milo's screen any minute.
Yeah.
Okay,
we'll have to have some cat walking.
I've got like it's a Japanese pruning saw, and it's a really, really cool item for kind of like sawing, pruning down little branches. It does exactly what it says on the tin, but it's very, very incredibly sharp. It has these like really fine serrated teeth, but it's absolutely excellent for cutting stuff and just kind of clearing areas and things. Great little tool.
Pruning meaning like destruction, right? Like you destroy anything with it.
No, pruning's more just like you're kind of clearing a very like kind of smallish area, but not like total clearing. So like where a chainsaw would go through, say, a full trunk of a tree, the pruning saw will just take like kind of 1 inch branches or whatever. So, but handy if you want to clear an area. Yeah,
it's for the smaller branches.
Yeah.
Not as destructive as like a chainsaw.
No, it's literally if you're kind of like, it's like a bush tool really more than anything, because if you're out and about, you can just clear an area and kind of use those branches and things to make shelter and things like that. So yeah, it's a cool little tool, to be fair.
The strangest, it would have to be, I mean, the machete is a multi-tool also.
Yeah.
All right, guys. We're as always fantastic talking to you again, Rob. But we probably should wrap up here. Before we go, do you have any projects that you're working on now that Hollywood is opened back up that you want to mention?
Oh yeah, well we're working on the Haunted Curve still, and Stevens is recording audio for that. And you've got some photos of her. And there were two things that I wanted to mention. Yeah, okay, there were a couple of things. I forget what one of the terms was. I think it was the new horror cynicism. Okay, that's my term. I've coined this term, if I can be presumptuous that way, to call
the new horror cynicism.
Yeah, the new horror cynicism. Okay. Is what I call the current trend in horror entertainment. And I define this trend as taking the idea of horror being a genre that deals with primal fears, universal fears, right? And sort of obsessing on that, obsessing on the death and horror and gruesomeness aspect of it, to the exclusion of anything else. Okay? And whereas in previous iterations of culture, we have had morality plays and fairy tales that use the horrific elements as signposts to warn us away from the dangers of reality, metaphorically. Now, as Kevin has pointed out, we're sort of celebrating and deifying these kinds of horror icons. And I think that's an unhealthy philosophical practice in storytelling.
Like the new Leatherface movie that just came out, Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie.
I haven't seen anything new in a very long time. I'm talking about the general trend that's been occurring for about maybe 15 or 20 years now.
Yeah, I can see that.
I perceive that. It's a very large thing. It's a movement. It's a philosophical movement.
It certainly is, because I mean, there's definitely, even in so-called some of the more fun or softer films and movies, even those, the stories still kind of lean to glamorizing, the bad, and people kind of being, the viewer being convinced to emulate the bad parts rather than, the moral parts of the story, if there is any moral part to the story at all, because sometimes it's just pure.
If there is,
death.
You're absolutely correct about that. And the other concept that I wanted to discuss, which is part of the haunted curve, is called, I guess I'm going to call it functional character writing or functional characterization. And what that is we're going to assume that all human beings are essentially the same in terms of their level of intelligence, and that there's no determining factor in your background, like your birth, your genetics, or your culture, that's necessarily going to turn you into a bad person. That those are in other words, your character, the quality of your character, your moral character, is something that is randomly determined by various factors throughout your lifetime. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so kind of like leaning towards like a kind of fate kind of.
But functionally, what it means is you'll have like the bad guy and the good guy, or the bad girl and the good girl, but none of those characters, in the story, are going to be written as belonging to any specific ethnic group or religious group or belief system group. They are simply listed as people, as characters, generally speaking, with some exceptions. For example, one of the theories working might be, we're going to turn everything on its end. So because dark usually represents evil and light and brightness usually represent good, we're going to make all of the evil things look very bright and good in this story, and all of the actually good things look kind of dark and evil visually. Okay? So that you're going to judge these characters based on what they do rather than how they appear. In other words, the people wearing black leather jackets are the good guys, and the people wearing bright, sunny, comfortable shirts and being talkative are the very evil people. Okay? But none of that is determined by their race or their belief or anything about them other than their actual behavior itself.
Yeah, I get you. It's kind of more inferior, which is I like the kind of polarization effect, because obviously society, has been maybe conditioned to see it the other way. So it's good to kind of put that polarization technique on there and to see how an audience reacts. A bit like kind of saying, and none of the red shirts actually die, which would be
that's what I would do. I would you could start off that. You could
because everyone's thinking, anyone that's watching is expecting. In the movie,
like the first scene in the Star Trek movie is a bunch of red shirts get on the planet for an away mission, and you expect something to happen to all of them because of the brightness of their red shirts.
Yeah, and because of the historical metaphor that series is constantly, indoctrinated into the viewer. Okay, throw a curveball in there and say, "Hey, there we go. Look, they made it."
I think so. Yeah. In this case, however, like specifically in this case, it's a kind of an aracial thing where
absolutely.
I don't want to write any of the characters to be that particular way because of the way they appear genetically. That has nothing to do with it.
Yeah, they're just humans, or they're just a species, and that's it. And there's no attached connotation to it to a degree. But I imagine that is another kind of cracking conversation we could do. Again, it's been absolutely.
You're asking about the current projects, and the current projects involve. See, I could just give you a title and say, "Oh yeah, it's about monsters, it's about vampires." But
no, I totally gauge what the kind of projects looking to head towards.
It's experimental in form, and you might say, see, if we're trying to fight against the new horror cynicism. See, I believe that the new horror cynicism is actually tied to all those negative things in society that we're allowing to occur.
Yeah, it could easily be.
The way to respond to the new horror cynicism is to create horror media that is unusually positive and happy in nature.
Absolutely, Rod. Right, I'm going to throw in one. I'm just going to say thanks actually to all of the viewers and also our viewer questions, which pose some interesting ones to help us rip it up again. And I'm going to fire one last thing around to us all just before we go. So, Rod, Milo, and myself, I want everyone to give a quick answer. Cheese rolling, would you take part in it? Rod?
No.
Milo?
I might actually. Though I wouldn't be hardcore about it. I wouldn't be one of the people that's like hauling ass down the hill and tumbling over his head. I'd take it slow.
I think I'm going to be the guy who's actually, I'll be on the cheese, literally just riding the cheese down the hill. Like, come on the cheese, man. It's like,
wow.
I'll give it a go.
I've never been so frightened of cheese as I was when I saw the film of the people running down the hill after one.
Yeah, I couldn't believe how many people they showed being dragged off that hill. Like literally being carried off.
9 pound roll of cheese as well. I mean, that's in kind of European and terms, that's like kind of, what is it? 2.5 pounds per kilo. So
if you think
3 kilos,
this is much scarier than Stilton.
Yeah, definitely much scarier.
That should be the tagline for the cheese chasing. Yeah, scarier than Stilton.
Chasing cheese and much scarier than Stilton.
There we go. I'm going to suggest that to the Gloucester
episode 20.
Yeah.
Cheers, Rod. Take care.
Have a good one.
You too. Ya. Bye. Hey, Kev, what's coming up next on the show?
Yeah, Milo, next time on Rip It Up, we've got musician Gnome Frank, and then coming up as well, we've also got director Pat Cardy, and we've got a Hollywood actor from Back to the Future 2 and 3. I'm not going to reveal the name yet, but viewers, keep your eyes peeled on the show and keep a watch out, because those are all going to be great. I mean, the musician we've got coming up, Gnome Frank, is beautiful jazz singer. Director Pat Cardy has got some great stories as a child actor as well. Starred alongside Kurt Russell, and the Back to the Future guy is. I'm pretty excited about all three of those, to be honest. So.
Me too, man. I am anxiously waiting for those ones.
He's anxious. He's like
anxious.